Hi, Nathan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Well, thank you for taking the time out. We know it's very valuable and giving your energy to this podcast. And today we're going to talk about the Taoist lifestyle. And Dr. Wu mentioned you were the perfect example for that. So today we like to hear from you, Nathan.
Uh,
Can you share a
Me.
bit about your interest in Taoism and how that came about?
Yes. It came about by getting ill.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
yeah, to put it straightforward, that's how it actually started because I wasn't looking for it. It was looking for me.
right.
So that's how it ended up. So getting ill, I needed an alternative because of the system. Let's start with the system, the Wu Wei. That is ancient to people right now. Even if I go back when I was in elementary school, you know, who came in first in a race? Who came in? Who got the A? Who got the highest mark? Who always competition. So that amount of stress, always competing, then
Right.
becoming an athlete, always competing. So then
Hmm.
you go into a business that financial advisor, it's all being pushed by the corporation from the top. Okay, so
Correct.
uh, unbeknownst to me, from and that's why in this business I spent years in management too. You're looking for an athlete
Mm, that's a
because they're
perfect
used to the
example.
yeah, see, they're used to the competition.
Right.
So I didn't realize it when I walked into this. So I walk into it and now I'm in it. And
Right.
it's like, okay, I'm in it. But I'm still not conscious of the Wu Wei.
Hey, Nathan, for the audience that don't know what Wu Wei is, can you elaborate on what that means exactly in that philosophy?
Yeah, basically it's letting you for me, I can only speak for myself. It's connecting to the universal consciousness and flowing with nature.
Right.
What's natural?
Right.
So an example would be how long does it take a chicken to mature as opposed to injecting hormones?
Hmm.
So that's the difference. Going with the flow would be a similar term that people say, just go with the flow. And that's what they're talking about.
Right.
Uh, but that's very difficult to do because of how we've been trained.
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
remember you mentioned that before in another interview is the effortlessness of doing everything. And it's interesting that you shared this example in business and modern life about competition. So, um, you mentioned that we're so competitive in the modern era and in business. So how have you personally made that shift? Like what practices or rituals do you do to make that shift from being super hard and competitive to flowing with the nature cycle of life?
Yeah, so what you have to do, which is very hard, you have to accept every situation that arises, especially on the business side.
Mm,
You sit down with a client, whatever it may be, or a patient, and it just doesn't work. You have to accept that. So
mm,
instead of forcing what you believe, then it's totally different. You can't spin the table around, but that's what you should do. You should put yourself in their position.
right.
So the reason why I'm saying it is that there's a saying, you put the gun down on the table till you get the client to sign.
Right. Wow.
Like that's what they teach. This are seminars. So I just never was comfortable with that. I was never a pushy person. I'm more hiding in the corner. I
Right.
don't want all the show. But as it was happening, I got caught with it. I got caught up. And so in the amount of time, there's people that's been spent 40 years in the business and never been initiated into the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
So
wow.
you need 18 conferences, and I did it in 19 years.
Wow.
So,
Congratulations. That's
yeah,
impressive.
right.
And
So
yeah, so Nathan, did you feel because you adopted that thinking and that concept of Wu Wei to not force and accept that has made you more and more successful in business?
yes, I think the reason being is that you have to be able to let go.
That's very hard to do though for
Yeah,
business.
you have to let go because we have the energy of the Almighty Creator in us.
Right.
So the Tao. So if that is looking out for our benefit, we need to respond. But a lot of times we force the issue.
So we
But at
kind of
this,
Yeah,
go
so
ahead.
it's almost like it sounds like, from what I'm gathering is it sounds like we interfere the process. Like we get ourselves in interfering with the natural process and not trusting it. And you're saying let go and lean back and trust the process and trust Tao that everything's provided.
Right. For what the Tao wants, not what we want, right? So the breath
Yes.
is in us, right,
Mhm.
which is from the creator. It's kind of like, you're playing the flute, you're playing the flute and you're breathing into the instrument. Who's making the sound, the instrument or the breath,
Right.
right? So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I can only speak of my experience.
Right.
I got sick
Mm,
from what is called running. Time. Are you chasing the time? Are
interesting.
you in tune with time? So if you're in the flow, you know, instruments, music is playing, someone's out of tune, you got to be in rhythm. Whatever it is, a swimmer when he's going down the pool doing laps, right, in a meet, everything's got to be moving. So he's consciously is just letting it flow.
Yeah, that's so fascinating because Dr. Wu talks a lot about the hustle culture and slowing down and stress is one of the biggest culprits of getting ill. And it's interesting you were talking about you became out of balance and that's why the health condition came in because you were out of balance in that way. Did you feel that you were under mental distress and your body was starting to tighten up, or how did that disharmony happen exactly? And then what
Yeah.
did you do after to resolve that?
Well, luckily, uh, I met Dr. Wu.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I met Dr. Wu. And that's when I had gotten ill. I shared it with you one time in the conversation,
Right,
you
with
know.
another interview.
Uh,
Yes.
and I just knew I wasn't right. My blood pressure had risen. I wasn't eating the way because you're trying to cram, a day in half the time, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what we do.
Right.
We're not flowing, we're chasing time. And
Mm,
that leads to the the craziness that we're in now with anxiety. So much anxiety of people because we're chasing. We can't just flow, let it happen. So I like it to a sport that I used to play,
yes.
basketball, and they would always say, never force the shot, never force the ball into the big man. It's never forced. You just flow. You whatever the defense gives you, you adjust.
It's interesting because I spoke with another practitioner a while back. I think you know her, Wei, and Wei mentioned that, for athletes and for artists, when you're in the flow state, you're actually in the Tao. You are in the
Exactly.
perfect flow and harmony, and there's no interruptions or any forcing, as you're mentioning. So what are you doing today as rituals and practices to support the Taoist lifestyle and mindset?
Right. Tai Chi,
Okay.
Qigong, meditation.
Every
Uh,
day?
I spend an hour a day.
Oh,
I
wow.
do Tai Chi every day.
Wow.
Qigong. Yeah. So I was fortunate because I have my own practice. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not on someone else's clock.
Right.
So it got to
Right.
the point where I'm on my own rhythm.
Got
So
it.
I start usually around 6 in the morning so that by 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm finishing up everything I have to do. I'm showering, I'm getting ready to get in my car, head to the office.
Right.
But if
Understood.
I was underneath the clock at 8 o'clock,
Hmm.
then you're getting up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's how we end up not in a good position because we don't have the freedom.
And
So
you're straining your body. You're straining your body, your mind, and your attitude starts changing. I mean, it makes total sense.
right.
When you're doing Tai Chi and Qigong, how do you feel in your body and in your mind? Like, can you kind of take us into your thinking and your thoughts of what that feels like when you're doing Tai Chi?
Yeah, so the nice thing about over the years that it's been over 20 years now,
Hmm.
your body will correct itself. Even if my mind wanders and my hip isn't where it's supposed to be, I know right away, just like that. It's not, and then you bring it right back in. But in the beginning, you just are learning. So,
Hmm.
but it teaches you to be aware of your body. So when any little thing just goes out of whack, I'm very sensitive to know.
That is very, very intriguing. So, Nathan, can you elaborate on that part you're saying that even though your mind could be, let's say, a little chaotic or, not feeling grounded, but when you say you practice Tai Chi or Qigong, it corrects itself. And how is that well, what is going on, I guess, in that
The flow of
situation?
the
Like what's
chi,
happening? Huh?
the flow of the chi, the
Right, the
chi
chi
is
force.
flowing, right?
Right.
So that force is saying this isn't right because you've done it right. First you have to get to the place where you do it right for a while because in the beginning, I know for myself, I wasn't doing it the way I'm doing it now. I
Right.
maybe thought I was, right? Because that's
Yes.
the ego, but I wasn't. And so that's when I know, get my mind off of what I have to do when I get to the office, focus back. So you never, at this stage, it's easier to bring it back than just to stay out there.
Interesting.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it
no,
takes
no, no,
time.
this is awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
I know about the chi flow, and for the audience that don't know, chi is the life force, and it is the essence of keeping you alive,
correct.
really. And the
Right.
chi does help bring in blood circulation, nutrients, and oxygen. So when you're saying the chi, even though you could be kind of ungrounded or you're thinking too much, on a physiological level, that energy, that chi is grounding you and it's bringing you back to your centered self. Is that what I'm
Yeah,
hearing or
and also it's everything's in the breath.
okay,
So when you sit to meditate as you're breathing, or when you're doing Tai Chi and your movements are connected to the breath, you'll
right.
know right away. That's why I say you'll know because you'll sense something and your breath is off,
Oh wow.
right? And so,
Yeah,
yeah, you try to connect the movement with your breath. And it's
right,
pretty much the same way in yoga.
right,
That's why there's such a similarity. Even when you look at the Tao Te Ching and you read principles and you read the Yoga Sutra, there's a
right.
correlation. Uh,
Yeah.
is
And that makes sense. And you were saying like the more you do practice the Tai Chi and the Qigong, your self-awareness becomes stronger and more amplified, that you notice every little slight change that's not in alignment, right? So you
right.
almost become more and more keen of everything around you and internally. Um,
You bring the awareness. That's the most important part is the awareness, right?
Interesting.
Because if you're just spacing out, doing it,
It's not doing that much,
yeah, you're
right?
not right. And it happens. Don't get me
Yes,
wrong. It will happen.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really quite interesting. What would you say to someone that just thinks, oh, you're doing calisthenics, you're not really, you're just, maybe stretching. Like, what would you say to someone that doesn't view the spiritual depth of Tai Chi and Qigong? Like, how would you encourage them if they see it as more as like this is calisthenics, or you're stretching?
Yes. Yeah. That's kind of because every individual I think is different. I think you
Right.
have to have a base.
Yes.
So if you don't have a spiritual base,
Right.
um, then it may be very difficult and
To start off with. Yeah.
to start off with
Right.
because you're doing it not to connect to the universal consciousness. So I'm just going to slide over to Tong Ren, right? So you have
Yes.
a bunch of people, which you people may think is crazy, tapping on a dial,
Right. Right.
right? And people are being healed. So
Right.
my my sister-in-law needed a hip replacement. So she came, talked to Dr. Wu, and we said, you come to Tong Ren. And she's a PhD,
Right.
host,
Right.
geneticist. She's so far
Wow.
removed from the spiritual end. You know, I love her dearly, but she's far removed.
Right.
She said she could feel it in her hip
Yeah.
after that session. She still
Right.
went and got the hip replacement, but she knows not to eat cheese. But that's what I mean by the awareness. It's hard to get her to come all the way, but that experience, just speaking to her would have never been there. She had to experience it. So
Right.
if people don't have the experience, everything else is just Google knowledge.
Right.
And that's the system we're living in, the fast pace. I don't need to know. I just Google and then I just say it again, but you never really live it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's very, very fascinating because I've heard about Tom Ren with different practitioners, and they speak a lot about tapping into the universal consciousness. And when you're tuning in with that, you're almost like downloading the energy of it. And then on top of it, learning from Dr. Wu saying we're all bioelectric beings, we're all essentially energetic beings. So it makes total sense that your energetic beings is going to influence the other person by, when they were tapping, they're sending those vibratory energies over to that person for healing. And, I know we're kind of talking about quantum physics a bit, but I think a lot of the metaphysics and a lot of the doctors in the Eastern realm, they do all believe we are energetic beings, and there's a lot of scientific experiments that have proven this.
Yeah, we
So,
are energy. That's the whole key,
right.
right? That we are energetic, we are energy flowing beings.
Yes, we believe that, but then I don't feel the mainstream really discusses much about it or entertains that, and then we know that Western medicine definitely don't talk about energetic beings. So
No, no, no. It's a whole different
mindset.
realm.
Yeah.
That's very difficult. You know, again, that's why I say you have to have a base. There has to be something in you, spiritually. You know,
Right.
past life experience that you may have had. You know, uh, that has brought you to a place. I always tell people, and if you've met Dr. Wu and you've just walked by him, then you've missed an opportunity. But
Mm.
on the other side of it, you might have not had something in your life that would be able to draw you to that spiritual realm. So
Yeah.
the Wu way is me. He's the Wu way. That's
Yeah,
what,
he is.
yeah. So
He
that's
yes.
what he lives it. He breathes it.
Right.
That's the where you have to be at to be receptive to
Right.
any thing being downloaded to your consciousness so that you can absorb it and believe
Right.
it. Because it's all in believing, right? You have to, he could lay hands on you, can do whatever, they can tap downs. If you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. There's got to
Right.
be that connection between the teacher and the student,
Right.
or the
Yeah.
patient and the doctor.
Right. Well, that makes total sense. I mean, the believer, the receiver, it's part of that mindset, and that emotional makeup is it affects your physical body. And this kind of coincides with the blockages in your body, where if you have a chi blockage, then usually diseases manifest and develop. But if you unblock it with the chi movements of Tai Chi and Qigong, then you're letting that flow happen, and there's energy being developed from that. It's funny, I want to revert back to what you're saying about Dr. Wu and some of his thinking and philosophy, because I remember him saying to me one time, is it's almost like you have to detach yourself. And if you detach yourself and you let go, like what you're saying, Nate, and he said your business actually becomes more successful because you've removed yourself from constantly pushing at it, and
Right,
that's
right.
a really, really transformative way of thinking for a lot of entrepreneurs and business people, I think, because that's not the American culture at all. It's the
No,
opposite thinking.
no. So I get calls all the time to, like, do you want to buy leads? Do you want to advertise?
Right,
I never. So one time we had a marketing person, and they
right,
put me on LinkedIn, and I freaked out. And I'm still on LinkedIn, but I don't know the password. I don't know anything.
right,
All my business is through referrals.
right, right.
So you have to be patient. You
Yeah,
have to wait. You know,
yeah,
right? So I'm not chasing, because
exactly.
then I would be out of my rhythm in my life.
Right,
I'm not saying that you can't do those other things. And that's why I wanted to just state in the beginning a
right,
disclaimer here that this is me. For me, and it might not work for someone else. And
right,
I'm not saying that. That's how I arrive at inner peace for myself.
right. And so now that you've adopted this Taoist thinking and lifestyle, do you feel that your physical health has recovered completely?
I hope so. You have to ask me. I get a treatment. I think I'm not bad for, end of January, I'll be 72. So,
Oh,
I'm,
wow. Oh my
yeah,
goodness. You
I,
look so fabulous.
no, but I think that that's all contributed.
Right,
That's all, you know, contributed to it. And
right. So Nate, my last question for you is, now that you know about, and you've experienced Taoist Chinese medicine, you've adopted the Taoist lifestyle and mindset, what do you think is the biggest change in your life? I mean, how have you changed as a person overall? Like, can you share maybe a reflection of yours?
yeah, uh, for me,
Yes.
patience.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in my temper.
Interesting.
Yeah, I used to have a very bad temper.
Wow, you would
Yeah,
never guess that by
yeah,
speaking with you. You
yeah,
seem so calm and very
yeah.
grounded and very centered. I couldn't see you blowing up at someone at all.
Oh, oh, yeah. So Aquarius with the Aries moon and the Virgo rising. It could happen.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Wow. So,
But
well, that's what I'm saying. So part of the biggest change is in some ways your attitude, your personality, even by adopting the Taoist lifestyle. Because I
yes,
mean, you do not seem like an explosive person to me at all, like from the interviews. And, to share that you had a bigger temperament. That's very incredible that you went through this transformative process and journey to arrive at more of someone with inner peace. And I think when
yeah,
other people can start studying and practicing the Taoist lifestyle with what you do in Qigong and Tai Chi and the mindset of Wu Wei, I think it's very beneficial for people to learn that this is almost a necessary health regimen that you want to incorporate in your life, because isn't the goal to try to equip ourselves with things and tools that can help bring healthier lifestyles and wellness, because our world is so chaotic,
Yeah, that's where the battle comes, like, so if you think about advertisement, that's one of the biggest things. We're always in the fast pace of TikTok, Instagram, this is me. Like I
yes,
try, I watch a few people, but I'm not big on that for my own life because I don't want
right,
to get, hooked on it, but it's fast paced and they're telling you what you want.
yes,
How big is your house supposed to be? So I've had clients ask me, how much money, what does someone have at my age? Well, doesn't matter what someone else has at their, you have to worry about yourself. But
right,
we are so caught up. What's the must have? Oh, I need to have this. They said I need to have this, or I need to have this size of a house. I need to live like this. How do you need to live? It's always comes back to you. But
right,
we're so pressured by the world to adapt to a standard. And if
exactly.
you
I
break
so
away
agree.
from that standard, you're the oddball. But
Hmm.
everyone else is chasing. So Ming's term, running on Dunkin' Donuts, they all
Yeah.
run on Dunkin', like, so, and that's true. When he first said that statement years ago, it was like, yeah, it's like, and it's worse now.
I know.
Especially I've seen after the pandemic.
Yes.
I have a couple clients that are professional, and I said, how is the psychology of people? And they said it's worse after the
Yes.
pandemic because everyone's on this pace. You know,
Right.
you can't get people back into the office.
Right.
Corporations now have to give in order give something up. So everyone's just stressed.
Yeah, I think this is really actually great timing to discuss about Taoism and its thinking and philosophy, because in the modern culture of what we're talking about with the programming and with the materialism, I think reverting back to the ancient wisdom and the Taoist philosophy is what, like 5,000 years old or so. And so it's almost like our modern world is desperate for ancient wisdom and spiritual knowledge to help us survive now, and that's just like, I would never think that would happen. It's happening.
Yeah,
So,
because the Tao is just the flow of nature. A
right,
plant, how long does it take for the seasons to pass? You can't
right,
speed up from winter, right, to spring. It might last longer. One winter
right,
might go on longer, it might be shorter. But
right,
we want to push everything faster, faster, faster. And I think
right,
that's where we're getting out of balance.
right. Well, thank you so much, Nathan. Thank you for this
Oh,
interview. It was
quite
very
welcome.
knowledgeable, and thank you for sharing your experiences. And we hope that the audience are able to take some valuable nuggets from it. Thanks again, Nathan.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.